All right, there are only two problems to this first practice. Here we're going to do number 1 and 3 on the bottom of your notes. Number 1, the degree is 2, exponent of 2, so that means there's going to be 2 solutions. So it's a trinomial, so I'm going to start by factoring first. So I'm going to take 3 times 3, which is 9, and two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to negative 4. So let's see, the numbers that multiply to 9 are 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. That actually doesn't have any numbers that multiply to, or add to negative 4. So this guy's actually prime, which means it can't factor, it doesn't have rational roots, but I can still solve it. I'm going to solve it using the quadratic formula. So in order to use the quadratic formula, that's to the right there, I need to know A, B, and C. The quadratic formula says the solutions are x equals the opposite of the b, so positive 4, plus or minus. Now under the square root, I take my 4, which is negative, squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times 3. All right, now I'm going to simplify here. I'm going to take what's under the radical, that radicand, and type it in to Desmos. Okay? So I start with negative 4 squared minus 4 times a is 3, and c is also 3. I get negative 20 under the radical. All over 6. Now, I'm going to simplify. 4 plus or minus. I need to simplify the radical, negative 20. Think about perfect squares. 20, radical 20. I'm going to have an I, so I'm just going to ignore the I for now, because there's a negative, so I'll have an I in my answer. 20 breaks down to be radical 4 and radical 5, which is 2 radical 5. So with the I there, I'm going to have plus or minus 2I radical 5. Because remember, a negative under the radical, the square root of negative 1 is I. That's why I have the I. Over 6. If you get to this point, then I'm happy. However, we can still simplify. The 4, the 2, the 6 are all even, so I can divide them by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus or minus 1I radical 5 over 3. That is a simplified answer, but either one of those I will accept. All right, we're going to do number 3. This is one of those soap problems. I can tell that because it's x cubed minus 1,000. There's 3 terms, or 3 degrees. The degree is 3, so the number of solutions is 3. There's 2 terms here. They're both perfect cubes, so I'm going to use the method of factoring by soap. All right, now, remember, when I factor with soap, I have 2 sets of parentheses. A short one with 2 blanks, and a long one with 3. To fill in the blanks, I start by taking the cubed roots. The cubed root of x cubed is x. That goes in the first blank. The cubed root of 1,000, ignore the negative, is 10. Now to fill in the blanks on long parentheses, I take the first guy, x, the first blank, and square it. For the last blank, I take the 10 and square it, will be 100. The middle blank here, I multiply the x and the 10 to be 10x. Then I fill in my signs. Remember, it's same, opposite, always positive. So I start with a minus. So the same is a minus, opposite of that is a positive, always positive. So let's find our solutions. First one is easy, x minus 10. I set that equal to 0, and I get a solution of 10. That's one of the 3. Now, I told you in the notes to find the other 2. This trinomial on the right will never, ever factor. So you can either use the quadratic formula or completing the square. Quadratic formula will always work. I'm going to show you complete the square just to review it here. So to complete the square, you're going to set the factor equal to 0. Now the reason I can use complete the square here is because the leading coefficient is 1, and in 10, the middle term is even. You subtract 100 from both sides, and when I subtract the 100, I fill in that spot with the box. To fill in the box, I take half of the middle number, which is 5, and square it. 5 squared is 25. Now the left-hand side Remember, it's always going to factor into a perfect square trinomial, which we shorthand wrote as something squared because both factors were the same. And the factor here was half of the middle term, x plus 5, and equals negative 75. They're actually almost there because we have to solve this. I get rid of the square by square rooting, and I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus. Now the square root of 75 will have an I, but square root of 75 would be radical 25 times radical 3. 25 times 3 is 75, which would be 5 radical 3. So 5i radical 3. And then all you have to do is subtract 5 from both sides and squeeze it right in front of a plus or minus. X equals negative 5 plus or minus 5i radical 3. Those are your other two answers. All right, if you need more help on those, try the other problems, ask your teacher for help, or you can move on to lesson 2. You're going to use a lot of those same factoring methods.